excuse me. We'll begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. I'd like to request a roll call, please.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer. Connor. Boyes.
Aye.
Hannah.
Aye.
All committee members are present except for Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Ms. Viviano. I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the previously held meeting. I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. The ayes have it. We have 4 items that are up for public hearing today. So the procedure is that we will first hear a report. Actually, the clerk of council will read in the conditional use request. After that, we'll receive a report from the planning department in reference to the conditional use requests. After that, we'll then ask that anyone that wishes to testify before the committee, that they please be sworn in by our clerk, Sarah Biviano. After we swear in those individuals, we'll then open up the public hearing process, and we'll ask for anyone to speak either in favor or against the conditional use. We'll then close the public hearing portion, and then we'll open up to questions from the committee members, and then we'll open up to questions from all of council, all the council members. The thing of it is that we will then repeat that process this evening. It's at 5 o'clock, thank you. At 5 o'clock, we'll repeat that process. We invite you back to participate in that process. The committee or the council then will vote on either to pass, to take time to, or reject a conditional use request at 5 o'clock. So those are the procedures, and you're certainly invited back at 5 o'clock. We welcome you. We certainly appreciate you coming down, and we want to hear from each and every one of you. Thank you for coming again. So the first item, Sarah Biviano, would you please read that in? Thanks.
The first item up for public hearing is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an addition to a gas station at 745 East Archwood Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Ram Kumar Venkat is proposing to construct a 1,920 square foot addition onto the north end of the existing gas station convenience store building. The addition will allow the petitioner to make room for a larger cooler, which will allow for the sale of fresh fruits and vegetables to supplement the bread, eggs, and dairy already offered at the store. Furthermore, the petitioner intends to add new public restrooms, lease space for a cell, telephone, and internet provider, and a future ghost kitchen. Finally, the addition will feature a walk-up window that will look out onto the seating area for patrons. There will also be a sidewalk that will wrap around the addition and the remainder of the building, with 9 new arborvitae plantings to screen the addition from the adjacent single-family district will be planted. 2 additional parking spaces will be added with the removal of an existing apron. Prior to this submission, the petitioner had applied for a conditional use for a drive-through addition. However, it was found that significant changes would need to be made to the property and that the parcel itself was too small to comfortably accommodate the expected drive-through traffic, while also removing existing parking spaces from the property. The planning staff is of the opinion that the proposed this addition is a right-sized improvement which will serve the neighborhood while enhancing the value of the property, and the planning staff recommends approval, subject to conditions. However, the Planning Commission recommends disapproval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci, for that report. At this time, I'd like to request that we swear in anyone who wishes to testify before the committee referencing 745 East Archwood. Anyone here? Ms. Biviano?
Could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Biviano. At this time, I'd like to welcome anyone who wishes to testify before the committee. If you could please speak into the microphone there and provide for us your name and address. We welcome your comments. Thank you.
My name is Roger Muzia, M-U-Z-I-A. I'm an architect. I live at 210 Columbus Street in Kent, Ohio.
Thank you.
This is my client.
Hey, good morning all. My name is Ramkumar Venkatramanujan. I'm the owner. I'm working with Roger. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I have
Hey, please go into the mic. I'm sorry. For the record, thank you.
I have some poster boards to illustrate what I'm talking about? Where should I put those? Do you have an easel?
Do we have if you'd like to step inside here, sir, we do have a easel, and do we have a microphone available? Yeah, if you'd like to, you can use Representative Connor's microphone right there. Thank you. There's a microphone right there, sir.
Okay, there is an existing Marathon gas station at the corner of Inman Avenue and Archwood Avenue, this is Archwood, this is Inman. There was a single-family house behind this gas station that burned, I'm guessing 25, 30 years ago, and rather than replace the house, they put a cell phone tower in the backyard of this house. So I would dare say that there will never be another single-family house put on this piece of property. My clients worked with the Akron Land Bank to acquire the vacant lot, and they asked me to come up with a proposal to expand their grocery operations to include fresh fruit and vegetables. They wanted to put an ice cream / snack bar for hot food. There would be a provision for a cell phone store inside here. Basically, we're trying to become a neighborhood, all-purpose convenience grocery gas station for the neighborhood. This is a food desert. There's really nothing, these people have to go 2 miles to a grocery store. So by doing this addition, we'll be able to provide milk, bread, eggs, things that everybody needs, and they don't have to drive 3 or 4 miles to get there. There's a very large maple tree in the front yard of this property. It was probably in the front yard of the house. I'm sure kids crawled on it. This tree is almost 4 feet in diameter. I could have taken that tree down, but I decided not to. Essentially, it's a large tree for screening from the neighborhood, and it's going to provide shade for ice cream people, hamburger, hot dogs. Basically, we're trying to bring people, pedestrians, to a gas station. We're trying to basically bring people in here and serve them and take their money. It's a business, and business is good. My clients have bought this property in 2019. It used to be a 24/7 operation. They now close at 11 o'clock on weeknights. And
I think we close 11 on Sunday to Wednesday and open only up to 12 on Friday and Saturday. So we want to make sure our neighborhood very safe. And top of that, what Roger said, when we acquired before that, a lot of customers are drive from other area, and we meticulously work with the Akron police. We adapted the full server lines, latest camera system. Also, we given fee to our Akron police. So they are given a much positive update. Hey, what you've done is very helpful. Not only helping the community store, whoever passing through, they are come to see the video. And second thing is also, top of that, what Roger said, we did a lot of improvement on lighting, especially all our customers. Most of our customers are walking, close to 1,000 plus customers are walking to our gas station. And it's kind of a C-store, not on a gas station for them. They like, and before COVID, we had as per the customer survey, they requested, hey, can we have some food top of that? We did it something, but eventually COVID got a different kind of challenges. Then we closed it, and I used to work from register. I do working in a banking, top of that, I love to talk to a customer. What I hear from our regular customer, hey, can we have some extended thing? The neighborhood could work. Even one of the pilot, what I did, a couple of neighbors, they are used to work in a restaurant. They want to try something. I said, I gave a space. They even prepared half-cooked, and they did some final preparation in our location. They started giving to the samples, even did it to the customer. The customer liked it, but the challenge is the face is not enough. That is where when we got a chance to this, about this land, okay, why don't we can take it, build a kind of a community ghost kitchen model, give it to our neighborhood. whoever can, they can come and cook, they can sell to the customer, because most of them, everybody knows. The way I see last 4 or 5 years, everybody knows everybody's names, how they are doing in family. They are very connected. That's how I see is a much value to our customer. And also the good thing is a lot of retired or old people there, they cannot drive, they don't have the car. This also give an opportunity to them get the hard food, what they need it in one shop.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, sir.
These are the elevations of the proposed addition. I'm a fan of awnings. I like porches. It snows here. It rains here. I like people to be protected, and they say welcome. All the lighting will be internal. We'll probably put lights in. This is the size of that tree. It's huge. And like I said, I sacrificed a parking space because I think that tree is important. We're also going to put a row of arbor vitae. That'll be a natural fence as well as an actual fence here. We have worked with the next door neighbor. The next door neighbor is on the side of this project. I wish they would have come and said yes. I wish they would have come and said so. But all they want is a fence, and we'd be more than happy to provide that for them.
Very good.
Any questions?
After the public hearing's over, sir, we'll entertain questions, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, is that all? Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments, certainly appreciate that. Is there anyone else here wishing to make comments in reference to 745 East Archwood? Anyone else? In favor, or against? Very good. Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion. I'm going to open it up to questions from any committee members at this time. Any committee members with any questions or comments? Mr. Hanna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's an excellent opportunity to bring in expansion with that business. My question is, will you hire people from that area to work in the new addition?
Absolutely, sir. We are hiring only the people in our neighborhood, our community, and after COVID, we have challenges. But if you look at my store, more I'm promoting. Even I took couple of employees last couple of years from the street. I made them, help them. Okay, let's work, train them. So I have a lot of employees in my payroll like that. I'm not only hiring who are already working experience, also taking people who they take stuffs outside, eat. Hey, come on, I can help you. Get a dress, food, and clean. I can able to give a contact whoever I did it.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions or comments from anyone on council? Anyone whatsoever? Okay, very good. We'd like to invite you back again this evening at 5 o'clock, whereas the committee will make a recommendation either in favor, against, or to table an item and take time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Item number 2, Ms. Biviano.
Item number 2 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a 4-unit apartment in a single-family residence use district at 1971 16th Street Southwest.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Robin Blaurock is requesting permission to convert the mixed-use structure into a 2-family dwelling. The property contains a single-family dwelling facing Chester Avenue with a retail establishment attached to the back with a dwelling with access from 16th Street Southwest. The retail portion formerly contained the business Showcase Meats, who were able to operate at that site within the residential neighborhood under legal nonconforming status. In 2019, Showcase Meats moved from the site of their current location to their current location on Manchester Road. The retail portion of the building has remained vacant, while the dwelling has been continually used as a rental unit. The legal nonconforming status expired in 2021, 2 years after their relocating. Within that time, the petitioner attempted to fill the space with another business but was unable to find a tenant. Instead, the petitioner is requesting to convert the retail space into a dwelling unit. The petitioner is also the owner of a residential 2-unit dwelling adjacent directly to the north, intersecting at 16th Street and Silvercrest Avenue. A portion of the former retail building encroaches into that parcel, including the parking lot for that. And for that reason, the zoning division recommends that the properties be combined, with the end result being the creation of a 4-unit dwelling complex on this single property. The parking lot will be available for 2 vehicles while also utilizing on-street parking. The petitioner's request to downgrade the structure from a retail use to a 2-family dwelling will lessen the intensity of land use in the neighborhood and bring it closer to conformance with the overlying single-family residential zoning. Planning staff and Planning Commission recommend approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thanks for your report, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I'll ask Sarah Biviano if she could please swear in any individuals that may wish to testify before the committee this afternoon. Is there anyone here wishing to speak?
Could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do." Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak before the committee. If you could please step forward and introduce yourself. And we wish to hear any comments you may have referencing the conditional use request at 1971 16th. Thank you.
I'm Robin Blaurock, a co-owner with my sister Renee Campbell of the building, and we know last time we were here, we spoke with Tina and trying to work with the community on making sure that this works for everybody. And some of the concerns, or pretty much the only concern that came up last time, was parking. So we're trying to find ways to make that work and make sure that the homeowners it's going to work for everybody. We actually had our contractor that's going to be doing the renovating, if this all moves forward, to come, and he brought up something that I think could really work and help with the neighbors. So he said in front of the building, we could kind of mark that off as a no parking zone. So we could utilize the 2 side parking spots, and the on-street parking that would be available to be used would be more towards the end of the street, and keep like the neighbors across the street, keep that open for them so that it isn't just crowding that entire street with tenants. That was something that we have talked with him about, and I think it would kind of solve the parking issue. That kind of seems like the main thing that we were trying to troubleshoot since the last meeting. So that's the new thing I wanted to kind of propose to maybe help things kind of smooth as we did renovating.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there anything else?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or against this proposal on 16th Street Southwest? Anyone wishing to speak in favor or against? Okay, very good. We'll now close the public hearing portion, and we'll ask if there's any committee members that may have any comments or questions. I see Ms. Boyes has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I am very grateful to see that this vacant building is going to be used for something as great as housing. This is generally a residential area. Loved Showcase for the years that it was on 16th Street, but it is definitely a residential area, and I know the surrounding property owners would love to see this as a residential use, and I support that. I would like to add that I did meet with the property owner in question last night on site, and we did talk through some of those issues. Again, her concerns were parking and where the parking would be. I know we had discussed possibly closing a curb cut there, and I think at this time, because of the location of the curb cut in relation to their driveway, they have some large vehicles, and they're concerned that they're going to hit vehicles parked behind them if they back out. So I think the existing curb cut there in the front of the building, it's not beautiful, but it serves a purpose, and it keeps the property owners aligned with the project. So I appreciate the idea to mark parking a little bit better. They've had some issues in the past with another property that now is owned by a homeowner, which is great, but I'd like us to be conscientious of the surrounding property owners, and it sounds like you are, so I appreciate that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Further questions or comments from anyone? Questions or comments? Hearing none, we'd like to invite you back this evening at 5 o'clock, where we'll have an additional public hearing, and we will then make a recommendation to all of council, either in favor, against, or to table an item, take time.
Okay.
Thank you for coming down. Appreciate you guys coming
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you. With that, we'll now move on to item number 3, Ms. Biviano.
Item number 3 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a retail baseball, softball training facility at 1277 Home Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Jacob Summers is requesting permission to establish an indoor baseball and softball training facility at this location. Since such a use is classified as retail and not permitted in an ordinary industry use district by right, conditional use approval is required. The proposed Summers Sports Baseball and Softball Training Facility will occupy the former home of Legacy Indoor Auto. The 64-year-old commercial structure contains 24,000 square feet of area. Paved parking for 50 spaces is located north of the building. Except for the installation of new signage, there will be no new changes to the building exterior or parking area. The only interior renovations needed will be the installation of artificial turf and movable nets. Petitioner stated that the facility will provide training space for players ranging in age from 8 years to adult. Submitted plans note space for 6 indoor batting cages, a team area, and a practice field. However, the high ceilings and netting system will allow for reconfiguration of the indoor space to meet the needs of their participants. Until recently, the building was the home of the conditionally zoned indoor auto sales showroom. The proposed use will not only revitalize a vacant building, but neighboring Chapel Hill retail businesses should also benefit. The well-maintained property meets all development conditions of the zoning code, and the planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. And, well, first of all, we'll ask Ms. Viviano to swear in any individuals who may wish to testify before the committee.
If you're here for this public hearing, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do." Thank you.
Thanks. We'll open up the public hearing now and ask if there's any questions or comments anyone wishes to make referencing 1277 Home Avenue. Public hearing, if you'd like to make any comments, you're welcome to come to the microphone and make any comments whatsoever. Public hearing is open. If there's any questions or comments, Public hearing's open. Anyone wishing to make any comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and open up to committee members. Is there any questions or comments from any committee members? I see Mr. Lombardo, the ward council person, has his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Definitely support this. It's a bonus to the area. The inside with the indoor facilities for kids of all ages, high schools and everything would be a benefit. And it's just a good thing that he's got going there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. Any further questions or comments from anyone? Any questions or comments? Just a real quick question, Mr. Antonucci, how big is the facility here again? How many square feet? 24,000?
20, what is it, 20,
Is it 24?
24,000 square feet, yep.
Sizable. It's very good. Thank you. Further questions or comments? Okay, very good. Hearing none, and we'll invite anyone who wishes to come back at 5 o'clock. We'll make a recommendation after the public hearing at that time. Thank you. Item number 4, Ms. Viviano.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an automobile sales lot at 1410 Vernon Odom Boulevard.
Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Mohammed Hazin is requesting permission to establish an automobile sales lot on the premises. The existing building will become the sales office for Best Auto Sales. The paved parking area at the rear of the building will house approximately 25 vehicles for sale, along with spaces dedicated to customer parking. The business will be open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with 2 employees. One goal of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan includes guiding development so that it will be convenient to residents served and have minimal impact on adjacent properties. This location is along a major arterial and adjacent to I-77. There are also several larger vehicle dealerships to the west of I-77. Most of the development in this area has changed from residential to retail and commercial since the expansion of the expressway. This vacant dwelling was built in 1950 and has been conditionally zoned over the last 50 years for office use and then a beauty salon. All the adjacent properties have also been conditionally zoned. The planning staff acknowledges that usage of the property as a single-family dwelling is not practical, and that a small automobile sales lot would be harmonious with surrounding uses. If directional signage is installed and vehicle storage and parking is limited to the paved area in the rear yard, the planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Antonucci. Sarah Viviano, would you like to swear in any individuals that wish to testify before the committee this afternoon?
If you could please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Viviano. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wishes to make any comments referencing 1410 Vernoden. Please identify yourself and give us your address, and you're welcome to make any comments. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Muhammad Hazem. I live on 607 Brookstone Court, Copley, Ohio, 44321. And I think that place will bring some jobs in the community, and we will try to put affordable cars based on the community need. And that area is surrounded by commercial, so I feel like if it's approved, that would be good for the community and surrounding area.
Very good. Thank you for your comments, sir. Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor or against this proposal at 1410 Vernoden? Anyone else wishing to make any comments? Very good. Thank you again for coming down this afternoon. We'll close the public hearing portion and ask if there's any questions or comments from anyone on council, on the committee. Just, I assume, as we typically do, as a matter of course, we asked the traffic engineer to review this, and they came back with a favorable recommendation in terms of converting from residential to commercial.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Interesting. Very good. Thank you. Thanks again. Of course, you're welcome back at 5 o'clock this evening. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for coming down. Thank you. With that, we'll now move on to the balance of the agenda, of which I guess I'm going to recommend time. We'll go into the new list of legislation. First item, Ms. Viviano, if you could please read this in for the record. Thank you.
Item number 2 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct additional parking at 2330 Smith Road and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing, item number 3.
Item number 3 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to expand an auto salvage business at 1483 Triplet Boulevard and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing, number 4.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to place an off-premises high-rise sign at 1570 Frederick Boulevard and declaring an emergency.
For an advertised for public hearing, 5.
Item number 5 is an ordinance approving and confirming the appointment of Councilman Phil Lombardo to the Board of Directors for the Joint Economic Development Districts and declaring an emergency.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Yes.
Bowman.
Sean Bowman, Deputy Director of Economic Development, wanted to give a little background on this. You know, we're a member of a number of joint economic development districts with townships. They are governed by 6-person boards, the 3 township trustees, as well as the mayor, and then 2 representatives of city council. Mike Freeman has served in this role for, I think, at least the last 12 years, I think was the last legislation that I found. Donnie Kamer is also on the Joint Economic Development Districts, so he does not have to be reappointed, but we needed to appoint a new member, and we're proposing Phil Lombardo.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone? Mr. Lombardo, do you have a question or comment? You sure you don't have a question?
No, that's fine. I'm pleased to serve on the board.
Thank you. You say that now?
Yeah.
Is kind of consent agenda okay?
Absolutely fine.
Is there a recommendation for consent agenda? I'll make that. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. The ayes have it. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids for the emergency demolition of 2324 Manchester Road and declaring an emergency.
Oh, yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. Thank you for your time and consideration for this piece of legislation. I'm coming before you to discuss 2324 Manchester Road. formerly the Akron Baptist Temple, and was acquired by the Word Church, I believe, in 2019. This particular piece of property has fallen into the abyss of disrepair and deterioration. The Housing and Compliance Division has addressed it and ordered it to comply. It was eventually ordered demolished by our vacant building registry board. It has been in this condition and has grown worse over years. If you go by this particular piece of property now, it is wide open. It poses a severe public safety concern, and we're moving for its emergency demolition. I brought my colleague Brad Beckert to discuss other aspects.
Mr. Beckert?
Yes, we've had quite a few complaints on this building within the last 3 years, starting basically in 2020. The Akron Police Department has had over 53 calls to that building since it's been vacant. The Akron Fire Department has over 168 hours going to calls in that building itself, even though there's a lot of homeless encampment and vagrants going in and out of that building. The building's basically been stripped of everything on the inside. It's really become a nuisance and a very dangerous structure to our residents there. So we do recommend that we do demolish it now.
Very good, thank you. I see the funding is what?
The funding for this project will, the Finance Department has allocated certain funds that we're going to be able to use to do that. We do have an application on file with the state, and we should hear on that application hopefully within a few months. They did say we can use it retroactively, so even if we go ahead with the demolition now, which we are recommending, we'd be able to use that money if we do receive it as a grant.
Very good, thank you. Now, I assume this 1.24 is also includes the not only the demolition, but the removal of all of the material that's left over
Yes,
from the site?
That is
So we're gonna take it away?
Completely.
that's correct, everything. Foundations and
Yeah, we've seen sometimes where
Garages,
that's a challenge.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Ms. Boyes, do you have any comments or questions, or would you like your name added?
I would. Thank you. This particular property has been a problem for our community for a long time, and I and a number of others have attempted to clean it up time and time again and just see more and more debris being added, more and more windows broken out. To your point, you can walk straight into the building now and through it. That is not good for the businesses surrounding it, it's not good for the residents surrounding it, and it's not good for those who are in the building. So I appreciate this emergency suggestion to demolish. My question is, I assume, as they do with the schools that we've had vacant in our community, that everything will be backfilled and kind of leveled off so that future development can happen, or is it, how do you handle that?
yes, the contractor does backfill if there, I don't believe there is a basement there, but they will take the foundations out, they'll put dirt and grass, and, they'll seed it.
Great.
Yep.
Another suggestion that was made at a recent community meeting, if there's any way to salvage, to work with the demolition company to salvage maybe a important portion of the building that hasn't been removed or made abjectly unusable, any kind of significant like cornerstone or something like that, I think the community would like to be able to save a piece of it somehow. So if there's any way to engage, maybe not the community, but me or others, our local historical society in that, I would appreciate it.
We can have that discussion with you and the contractor, yes.
Great, thank you.
And the ownership remains with the church?
Yes, the ownership would remain with the church. We would put a lien on the property for the amount of the demolition, as well as the other costs that we have into it as far as securing it and the such. So, yes, but it will remain with the Word Church, and would probably talk to the land bank about, beginning the foreclosure procedure.
Correct, very good. Good plan. What would you like? Suspend the rules? Would you like to suspend the rules?
Yes, I would.
I assume you would as well.
Correct, sir.
Please.
Very good. Further questions or comments from anyone? Is there a recommendation? Yes, Mr. Hannah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm new at this, but if you demolish that property, why does the Word Church still retain the ownership of the property? And the city is getting funds to tear down that structure, and if they can't keep it up, if they weren't able to keep it up then, how will they maintain it now?
Well, the structure will come down, so I don't think there'd be anything left for the Word Church to retain. However, you have, the government can't take your property without the due process of law. And this is what has been set up as, they still own the property. However, in order to transfer it to somebody, they would have to come up with the $1 million or so, to pay off the tax liens. But, and the tax, it's similar to a bank. A bank can foreclose with their mortgage if you get too far behind. The county can foreclose on taxes if it gets too far behind. But you don't automatically lose your ownership of the land that is underneath the building. It would make it a lot easier.
How many acres are there?
30.
30, yeah.
30 acres. This is a great, sizable parcel that is prime for development, one would have to believe, in terms of locationally close to the expressway. So yeah, hopefully moving forward, we could see something dynamic occur down the road. So with that,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Amobian has her hand raised.
Mr. Mobian.
Thank you very much. My question has to do with, I know you would like to have some business to come along, but with all of that acreage, who's going to maintain or who's going to mow the lawn and be responsible for that until it's sold to someone? Or until it goes through the legal process to be foreclosed?
Mr.
Ash.
Councilwoman Amobian, a large part of the parcel is, I believe, asphalt.
Yes.
So there will be no mowing. We will continue to go by and monitor the site to make sure that this does not become a illegal dumping site. So that is within our immediate plans as soon as the demolition takes place. So we don't anticipate much to mow once this takes place.
There was something talked about reseeding and all of that. Is that
That
reseeding?
That is something we'll have to discuss and then determine. That has not been discussed. That's a great point that you raise. But I can discuss this with Brad and my team, and we can get back with you with that answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, very good. Motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report, right?
Yes.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Very good. The ayes have it. With that, we're adjourned. Thanks.
Our next committee today will be the Public Service Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, DeShazier, Hardy, and Lombardo. Again, that's the Public Service Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, let's call the Public Service Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Kamer, McKittrick,
Aye.
DeShazier,
Aye.
Hardy,
Here.
Lombardo.
Aye.
All committee members are present except for Councilman Kamer, so Councilman McKittrick will be chairing today.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to accept our previous minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. We have 12 pieces coming in today. The first piece is an ordinance declaring the necessity of determining to proceed in levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets by the city by constructing, reconstructing, and repairing concrete sidewalks, driveway approaches, curbs, retaining walls, installing roof drain pipes, all in accordance with petitions submitted by property owners under the 2021 citywide sidewalk program, declaring an emergency. Mr. Lotto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this was from our 2021 sidewalk program. It did extend into 2022 to some of the properties that we didn't get completed. So obviously, once the program was finished and the one-year warranty was over, we did the true cost of all the sidewalks that were repaired, and then we sent, this will allow us to send the property owners from that program their assessment legislation. They can either choose to pay it or they could put it on their taxes. One of the highlights of this is we did probably about 30% of this program was horizontal cutting. So if a sidewalk was raised less than 2 inches, we worked with the property owner and we actually went in and horizontal cut that to save the tree. So it was actually, some owners do not like that. They want the sidewalk replaced totally, but the horizontal cutting does not reflect into the assessment process. They do not get assessed. So the other, we did replace 146 or address 146 properties in this program. So like I said, this is all done. The work is completed. This is to send the property owners the assessment for the affected properties.
Thank you. Any questions by any committee members? Mr. Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Luddle, I see on the supporting documentation where it breaks out tree. Is that, can you just give us a very brief overview of like how trees are handled in the assessment process? Because for some reason I thought like trees, if it's a street tree that is causing the need to do the replacement of the slabs, the owner isn't assessed, but I could be completely wrong.
You are correct. They are not, but we have a tree portion in this legislation because we had to remove the trees. So trees were removed and stumps, and this is able to pay the contractor. So you're right. We do not assess the property owner if it's deemed that the cause of the sidewalk damaged or lifted is the tree. So moving forward, we are definitely working with our arborists to alleviate this from happening again.
Thanks, Mr. Little. Any other committee members or council members?
Consent is fine. Yes, sir.
Consent agenda, please. Motion?
Motion for consent.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next piece is an ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with Montrose Ford LLC for the purchase of up to 5 Ford Explorers and 3 Ford F-250 trucks for the use of water distribution division and declaring an emergency. Mr. Luddle.
Yes, sir. This project of purchasing vehicles, typically we do state bidding prices and to purchase our vehicles. We did work with law and we also work with purchasing, and Montrose, they submitted quotes for these vehicles. And then we talked to the state because we do have a low interest loan through our meters project, which is a 0.5% loan. So we're able to build these purchases of these vehicles for our water department and water distribution through that loan program. So this legislation will allow us to move forward with that.
Are these replacing present vehicles?
Yes, sir.
And are those vehicles that they're replacing going to be utilized elsewhere or possibly?
Typically, they're beyond their useful life. I mean, if it costs more to put a transmission in a vehicle, then we'll auction them off.
Okay.
If we're able to use some, but we are adding to our fleet because of the meters project.
Okay.
Or expanding the project, and this will add to our fleet.
Thank you. Any questions by any committee members?
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Little, what's the lifespan of one of those vehicles typically?
Well, unfortunately, we try to get 8 or 10 years out of them. It depends on how many miles are put on them. But we do have vehicles out there that are about 10 years old, sir.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Could I get a motion for consent?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're to number 9, which is a resolution endorsing the Safe Routes to School District-wide school travel plan for the Akron Public School District and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lotto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Yes, the next two pieces are we're going to talk about the school safety plan and the safe routes to school. This first piece, ODOT requires us to pass a piece of legislation endorsing the plan. So that's all this first piece is giving us the authority to apply for the money. And then I'll talk more about what the Safe Routes to School plan is in the next piece. But this just gives us the authorization to institute the plan and apply for the funds.
Any questions by any committee members? Any other council members? Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules with
So
favorable?
move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the next piece goes in hand with that, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, accept and expend funding from the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the Safe Routes to School program and declaring an emergency. Mr. Luttle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Yes, this legislation really is what the school safety plan is. We're applying for $500,000 through ODOT. And what we're going to do with this money, if awarded, is it's all about slowing people down and safety around crosswalks. We've done numerous surveys, our engineering department, and to hear a crossing guard say, I'm barely off the road, people are honking at me, they're yelling at me. So people are just traveling too fast, as we know, and that's why we have an extensive traffic calming program with, whether it's raised crosswalks we're talking about or doing more permanent speed tables. But with this money, it's all around schools. We identified all the elementary schools, and where we can, we are going to install permanent raised crosswalks, which solves the ADA problem as you come right off the curb. It'll be an elevated, 5 or 6 foot wide safety raised crosswalk. It also is going to allow us to buy high visibility signs to where the crosswalks are at, rapid rectangular flashing lights around these crosswalks, flashing beacons, hawk signals, that type of thing, to make the whole travel to these schools safer for everybody.
Very good. Any questions by any committee members? Any other council members?
I'd have a question.
Sharon Connor.
Mr. Little, is this for all the schools or is it just certain buildings right now?
We're looking at all the elementaries and middle schools.
Okay, thank
Yes, we are. There's like 45 different crosswalks we're looking at.
I have numerous complaints on Gary Road right by Barber CLC. So
Sure.
I wanted to see if they were included.
Yep.
Thank
So we would, if we're awarded, this construction could start in 2026. Yep.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? Could I get a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a
Second.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The next piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, enter into a grant agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for maintenance of various bridges in the city and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, there's numerous bridges in the city that obviously need repaired. They're owned by ODOT. What this legislation will allow them to work in the city. So some are going to be structural repairs underneath, some are going to be surface repairs. There is going to be some traffic calming items that they'll be doing on some of these bridges, but all this legislation do, they will manage the project. They will bid the construction, and they will manage the construction of these projects. So all we're doing here is allowing them to work in our city.
Okay, thank you. Any questions by any committee members or any council members? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion for consent agenda, please?
Make the motion for consent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. The next ordinance coming in is authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the replacement of concrete panels at the Akron Fulton Airport and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lotto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this is a concrete pavement repair program where they'll go in and they'll identify slabs that need to be removed and then restored. Also some minor drainage issues on taxiway R. And then we are going to do some repairs to apron A of taxiway R. So this is 95 funded by ODOT and 5% funded by us. So it's almost, 100% money, but it's about $500,000 of work of our airport that they will fund.
Thank you. Any questions by any committee members or any council members? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Little, you're good with consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion for consent?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The next piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee after publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts to repair defective sidewalks and drive aprons throughout the city of Akron and to address ADA accessibility issues at city parks and community centers as part of the City Sidewalk 2024 project, declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Obviously, all the council members here know how important this sidewalk program and how important it is to our residents. And the mayor, obviously, he knows that too from experience as being a council member. So he pushed us to raise this funding up to $1 million this year, and what that will allow us to do is the residents will call 311 or they'll put in a petition, we'll send them out a form, and then we will inspect the property, and then we send them, once they send that petition back and we agree, then they're into the program. Well, we've always ran a couple years behind, but with this extra funding, we're very happy to say that this will take care of all the requests that we have received a petition on. Now, you're going to still have some resident out there that said, I called 311, I got the form, but we just haven't received that petition back. So there's still a few hundred of those out there, but everybody all the way through 2023 that submitted the petition and went through the process, this is going to take care of it with this funding. So with that, we would like to suspend the rules, as we talked about, to get this program going. We've already bid one portion of this project to only DEI companies, and we did receive a favorable bid. So they're ready to get going, and now we'll be able to bid the rest of the program. So this sidewalk program has been very successful to try to get new companies into our system, and the company that did receive the bid for the small portion is a Firestone Park company. So we're excited about that too. So with that, I will take any questions.
Questions from any committee members? Any other council members? Could I get a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
And
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll get that out. Our next piece is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and if awarded to accept and expend the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation Safety Intervention Grant for trench box and equipment and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of committee. Service would really like to thank Tessa Smith, our grants writer. She brought this to our attention. She worked with the sewer department. We put together this grant to purchase a new trench box. And especially being in fire, you know how important it is when you talk about trench safety and our employees and something could cave in on them. And what this has done over the years since we've had trench boxes, and Mr. Akins is sitting back here, he could tell you, 35 years ago, we didn't have this equipment, and it was sheeting the hole with boards, and it took a long time just to prepare the hole, just to fix the pipe, and that was just not in sewer, it was also in water too. So this is a fabulous piece of equipment. It's a safety piece of equipment that gets used almost every day by one of our divisions. They have their own, and then it's inspected every year to make sure that everything conforms with the way it was constructed. So this is a nice grant that we received, and we'd really like to thank Tessa for bringing it to our attention.
Very good. Any questions by any committee members, any council members? You're okay with consent for this?
That's fine, sir.
Motion for consent, please.
Motion for consent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The next piece is an ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service in contracting with H.M. Miller Construction Company for the emergency repair of a water main break at Little Street and Yukon Avenue, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yeah, last fall, Water received a call about water coming up through the street in this area. They went out, and it was a water main break. Well, the location of this water main break under a culvert, being 15 feet deep, was really beyond our equipment capabilities. So we contracted out with H.M. Miller to fix this break. There again, it was only a 6-inch main, but it was 15 feet deep, and the safety of it, they have a lot bigger equipment. They were able to do it. It did take them a week because of the location, how tough it was. So that's what this is, will allow us to pay the contractor.
Consent agenda or
Consent is
suspension
fine.
of the rules?
Consent's fine.
Okay. Any questions by any committee members?
I move consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion for consent agenda, and do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, number 16 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and if awarded, accept and expend the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program grant by FEMA and perform a planning study of the Lake Rockwell Reservoir and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this grant is a 90% funded. 10% would be our responsibility, but we're going to use this grant, as it said, for flood mitigation assessment of Lake Rockwell. Also, it'll assess the dam condition and repairs needed. And it'll do a flood inundation. So if unfortunately, if something would happen, what would be the downstream risks that could happen, and how do we mitigate those? Also with this grant, we also are going to look at an upground reservoir, which is pretty exciting. It's been successful in Columbus, and we're going to look, since we own so much land abutting our reservoir up there, Lake Rockwell, could we create a side reservoir and then, and believe me, I'm not saying we're going to take the Rockwell Dam down, but there is a possibility that this study could show that it's feasible to create that side reservoir. The dam could come down, and then you use like inflatable dams or booms, and then you push water into a side reservoir, and that goes to our drinking water. So it actually would help. Obviously, with the river, it would keep the river free flowing. We're really excited about the Gorge Dam. Obviously, we've all heard about that. Sediment removal will start later this year, and the dam will come down probably in another 2025 or 2026. So Lake Rockwell really is going to be the last impediment along the Cauga River. But this will help us study that and see future possibilities.
Refresh my memory, how old is that dam?
It's about 100 years old,
About
sir.
100 years old. So this is a very serious need to assess.
We do assessments all the time, but this is going to be more of an in-depth assessment and mitigation of what would happen. Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Any questions from any committee members? Mr. Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really just a comment. I just want to applaud you, Mr. Luddle, and Mr. Aiken, everyone in the department for your leadership on this. This is a really exciting, again, albeit initial step in thinking about upgrade reservoirs and to the future of Rockwell Dam, but I just wanted to make sure we called out the environmental stewardship that your department is leading and that it is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hardy. Consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could I get a motion for consent?
Motion. Second?
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and our last piece, oh, no, it's not our last piece.
Second.
We have an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of Bellwood Drive between the termini of Lafayette Drive and the northern terminus by paving, grading, constructing and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks, and driveway approaches, and installing roof drains, pipes, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Luddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of committee. This street, though it only is, 1,200 feet long, it is all concrete, and it is failing beyond our concrete repair program. So the abutting property owners, they did submit a petition. They did receive their notices on an estimate of the repairs that will be needed. So we received no objections. They all agreed. So we can now proceed with the bidding of this project, which will start later this summer. It's a full depth improvement. So all the concrete will be removed. It'll have all new curb, and then we're going to go back with an asphalt pavement from Lafayette to the northern dead end cul-de-sac of Bellawood.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from any committee members? Any other council members? Consent agenda?
That's fine.
Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And 17A, resolution declaring it necessary to improve Patterson Avenue between the termini of Winnipeg Street and 150 feet south of Boyle Street, Thornton Street between the termini of Dart Avenue and Grant Street, Emmons Street between the termini of Wilbeth Road and Lovers Lane, Cole Avenue between the termini of Brown Street and Arlington Street, Allendale Avenue between the termini of Cooper Avenue and Wilbeth Road, and Brown Street between the termini of East Dresden Avenue and 10 feet north of Wayne Avenue by the repair of concrete pavement and declaring an emergency. Mr. Luddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. This is our first step for our annual concrete repair program. So this will let the assessor's office send an estimate to all the budding property owners in these limits of these streets. Once they receive their notice of estimate, then they will have the opportunity to come in and talk to us, whether they object or get more explanation on the project. Once that process is done, then we can move forward after, if we have to have a hearing. As in the previous piece of legislation, there was no hearing needed because no one objected. So once we have that, then we can move forward with the bidding and awarding. So this program wouldn't start till later this year. We have applied for $1 million of OPWC, which we will not find out till July, which we anticipate receiving that money. If you look at the UCR, we did add some money in gas tax. So we removed the GO, and this was the mayor's drive to lower the GO in the budget this year. So this is just another piece where we've reduced that general obligation by $150,000 this year. So with that, I will take any questions, and consent is fine on the timing of this, sir.
Thank you. Any questions from any committee members? Any questions from any council members?
You'll know from the OPWC, based on their biennium budgets, that they
Yes.
come out in July?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could I get a motion for consent?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much, and with that, public service will adjourn. Thanks, Mr. Little.
Our next committee will be the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are McKittrick, Kamer, Lombardo, Hannah, and Davis. And we'll get started in just a moment here.
Okay, I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order. Roll call, please.
McKittrick,
Aye?
Kamer, Lombardo,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
All committee members are present except for Councilman Kamer.
Okay, could I get a motion to accept our previous minutes?
Motion to accept.
Second?
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I want to go out of order here and let Chief Natko speak. He's going to talk to us and give us some information here about the moving of Ladder 9. So I'd like to give Chief Natko the floor so he could give a presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Greetings to everybody, and thank you for giving me a minute to talk to you about a move that we're going to make in the fire department. And, you know, we're talking to you here, the committee, so you'll be better informed about a particular move we want to make later this year in the summer of 2024 here. The map up in front, up on the overhead and in front of the council members is representative of 4 of our ladder trucks. And our ladder trucks are placed strategically across the city, and that's all we have is 4. And we try and get decent coverage where we place the trucks, but we can only place them in certain places because of the room that it takes to store a ladder truck. Ladders 4, 7, and 8, we're not addressing those with you right now. We're addressing ladder 9. And ladder 9 is currently at Station 9, which is on Dodge Avenue in the Highland Square area. And up on the map, it's represented right in the middle of the circle that is yellow and green. So that's where it resides right now. What we're going to do is move that ladder truck to new Station 12 once it's completed later this year. Station 12 is represented to you in the circle that is blue and green. And the reasoning behind some of this I'm going to go over with you so you can kind of get a picture of why we're doing it. If you look at the current configuration for Ladder 9, you'll see that it overlaps the other ladder districts 2 times, 3 times, even 4. There's even 4 of them overlapping in one piece of that. And whereas that's good, it can also be redundant if we can get better coverage by moving the ladder out a little bit. And that's part of what we want to do. By moving the ladder to the further northwest area of the city, Station 12, we'll have some better ladder coverage for the areas in that area of the city. Not so much of an overlap with all the other ladder trucks that we currently have. If any of you have ever driven down Dodge Avenue and noticed the positioning of Station 9, it's the only one of our stations, it's probably the oldest one of our stations, and it's currently on a residential street. Which means it's very tight for the apparatus to move in and out of that station. A ladder truck is extremely long, difficult to navigate, and if you look at the apron at Station 9, the front approach, it's very short, very small, very tight quarters. It's difficult for a truck to come out and go back into the station. Over the years, we've had various accidents, not just between our fire apparatus, but between our fire apparatus and civilian vehicles on the street. Sometimes they're parked too close to the station, and we can kind of catch them coming out of the apron. It could also just delay a response if we have to stop and reposition to go down the street. Every other station we have in the city has a very large apron. It's built so it exits on more of a major thoroughfare. And that is true with new Station 12. It has a very large apron. It's exiting out onto Hawkins Avenue, which means it will be pretty much unrestricted as far as coming and going. That's one reason. Another reason is the new station. We build it with the availability of putting extra apparatus in there, which we hadn't, not until now, decided what that's going to be. It has 3 bays in there. Currently at Station 12 today, there is an engine and a med unit in 2 of those bays, and that would be moved to the new station. There's also a 3rd bay that's empty that we are going to place Ladder 9 into. So we will be utilizing all 3 bays of that station. The station is our newest one, of course, state-of-the-art. It will have a lot of things that are beneficial to the firefighters there. The station has segregated bedrooms. Current Station 9, if you were to visit it and walk through it, you would notice a dorm-like sleeping quarters, which is in itself problematic sometimes. It's one of our only stations today that is 2 stories. Every other station is a single-story type configuration. Station 12 was built to house enough firefighters, more than what we currently have in Station 12. So we're utilizing its full functionality by moving a ladder truck out there. And then finally, a benefit to the city, not only the coverage for the position of the ladder truck, but as the insurance service industries, how insurance is applied to the city. It's called an ISO rating. We've always been able, we've never been able to get lower than a level 2, despite a lot of things that we've tried. One of the requirements is the coverage and the response times for our trucks. We hope to be able to drop to a level 1, which is the best there is, by moving the ladder truck out to Station 12. That will be reflective for businesses across the city of Akron in a better insurance rating in the form of percentages. I can't tell you how that will impact them exactly, other than we hope that it will drive the insurance rate down for businesses across the city. We hope that it will allow us to qualify for a level 1. So that was quite a few reasons. I don't see anything that's insurmountable in our reasons to move that vehicle out there. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to questions for any of the committee or council members that have questions about this.
Mr. Lombardo, you have a question?
Thank you. Question, comment, just, I get it. That's nice presentation. 12 is the new one on Hawkins.
It's the new station on Hawkins, and the circles you see up there are 2.5-mile radiuses around the stations. It's not the limiting factor, but it is typically like an 8-minute response circle.
Okay.
But we can go beyond that, evidently.
It makes sense. Our ladder trucks, so there's 4.
There's 4.
Was the latest one like number 7? Or, no, I'm sorry, yeah, 7 for
One of the
stations?
newest ones, yeah.
Okay.
It had replaced an aging ladder that was there.
And do we someday like need another one? Or is 4 good for our city size? I guess that's a question.
You mean
Are we good with 4?
To purchase, to go back to a 5th ladder?
Mm-hmm.
We would love to. Years ago, we had a 5th ladder in the city, and due to budgetary constraints, we closed a ladder down, and we've never been able to get it back.
Yeah.
It's a huge expense to
Right.
purchase, another ladder truck. They run over $1 million today, $1.2 million, and plus you need the staffing to put on that truck.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Hanna, you have a question?
Thank you. What are you going to do with the existing fire station there now? And have you had any pushback from the residents about taking that ladder out of there? Because on the corner of Dodge and Market, it's that high rise. So it's going to take you a little bit longer if you move that station to get to that high rise. Have you had any pushbacks from the residents?
We haven't we haven't announced it to the public yet. We wanted to talk to council and the safety committee first, so you would be prepared kind of for the questions and response that you might get from the citizens. Ladder 9 would still cover those high rises that you're talking about. They would just be coming from Hawkins. Station 9, as it exists today on Dodge Avenue, is still going to be there with an engine truck. So the engine would still have its same response to those high rises. We would still have firefighting companies there in the same time frame, just the ladder truck would be coming from a different location. So where we delay its response in one area, we improve it in another.
Any other questions by any other committee members? I think I see Mr. Hardy.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Necco, I just want to thank you for this great explanation, and obviously, Ward 8 welcomes the prospect of a ladder at Station 12. I would remind my council colleagues that we haven't had that out there, and we do have, specifically right across the street from new Station 12, we have a high rise. We also have just adjacent the ICWU building and a lot of needs. So I think that will go a long way toward alleviating any concerns that Ward 8 residents have had regarding the move of Station 12. So I appreciate it. I think that's welcome news.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from any council members? Just one question. Oh, did I hear somebody on? I don't think so. One question I have, do our ladder trucks, are they comboed still? Do they combo from time to time?
Negative. We've been able to set all our ladder trucks so they are decomboed. We try and maximize our staffing on the ladder trucks first with 4. Ladder operations are quite complex. They don't put water on the fire, but they do everything else. They ventilate, their primary function is rescue, laddering, lights. It's like a gigantic toolbox that we're rolling up to the scene of a fire, and they are quite adept at what they do. But we've been able, all of our ladder trucks are now decomboed.
Very good. That's good to know. I appreciate that information. If we have no other questions, I'd like to thank the chief very much for taking time to come in and explain this. If anybody should have any questions in the meantime, who should they contact?
They can contact my office.
Okay, well, either contact me or contact the chief then. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have to address, we have a piece of old business, and I think we have a substitute to come in for that. Could you read that in, please?
Sure. This is a substitute offered as an amendment, an ordinance approving certain rules proposed by the City of Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Angeloni?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So what you have before you today is a slightly altered version of the rules that the Oversight Board has approved as of last Wednesday and presented for this committee's consideration and referral. Really, there's only two changes, I would say, and they both appear in the same section, which is section Rule 4J3. So I'm happy to address any questions or whatever the committee might like.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from any committee members? Any council members? Mr. Fusco.
Yes, thank you. There's been some misconceptions has been made and asserted really since the beginning of this process with regards to Citizen Oversight Board by individuals who will go nameless, that this council does not support citizen oversight of the police department. We want to get it right. This council passed in September of 2022 legislation that put in place, and this was before it was voted on by the voters here in Akron, this council had passed 9-4 legislation putting in place a citizen police oversight board. The thing of it is that I believe all of us want to get this right. Whenever this was brought forward and it was voted on by the voters of Akron, it was the designers had mentioned that they had understood that it was flawed to a certain extent, and there's going to be some work that needed to be done, and that was very, very obvious to many, and it was said time and again. But this here, the rules here that have come to us, this begins to get it right, and so with that, I support these changes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I see a couple folks out there. Would anybody would like to make a comment on this? Mr. Gippen?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and members of the committee. And Mr. Fusco, thank you for your statement. Of course, we've had some conversation the last couple of weeks, and let me say this. I don't think it's any secret that this past year, nearly a year, has been a frustrating one, for the board. I can't speak for anybody else. I'm not the one you were not naming, as you know. For the most part, the obstacles we faced have not been in this council. I mean, we've barely been before you. It was just when we were here with the rules draft in December, I guess. So that, from my standpoint, I can only speak for myself. I consider the council and the administration to have been, in both administrations, very supportive of this work we're doing, which is not easy. I mean, nationally, oversight boards have, maybe there's some inherent tension in the concept. But we've had good support in working through this very, very difficult process. And I think I speak really for the board. I mean, that was at the end of our meeting the other night. And I think even that member would agree with me when I say we've appreciated the cooperation and support. We understand there have been some genuine issues about the rules. We knew there were genuine policy issues, with the last one. We made the judgment that we should take the position that we thought was correct and appropriate, knowing that it would be up to you all to decide whether you agreed or not. You didn't, and that's fine. That's the process. So we went back and we revised the rules. Frankly, they do not reflect our policy views, but we're content with them, and we will work readily with them. We knew there were concerns with the FOP. We tried to work through those. We thought we had. It turns out there was some last-minute concerns thought about that we weren't aware of. But I think we have now got agreement. Mr. Lucy will speak to that himself if he chooses. And as far as timing, if I might, Mr. Chairman, the adoption of rules is urgent for all of our business. But most specifically, we are hopefully in the last stages of hiring an auditor, and the auditor is key to everything we do. And hopefully we can get to that ideally at our meeting on March 6th, so that having these rules in place would make that much easier. I need to add there's another person who's involved in this, and we hadn't really thought about it, but Shannon Thompson is our administrative assistant. You have not met her, but she's wonderful, and she's been our lone staff member, for now months. And the concern's been raised that because she was employed at a time when we did not have approved rules, that there may be some jeopardy there for her, and she's the last person in the world who deserves it, and she said something at the end of the meeting the other night. So in order to ratify her employment as soon as possible, would be a key reason to have these rules ideally adopted tonight, but not later than a week from tonight. So I really would appreciate your favorable consideration, and in a way that would allow adoption by the council on an expedited timeframe. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gippen. Mr. Lucy, do you have any comments, sir?
Brian Lucy for the FOP 7. We have no objections to the revised rules at this time, and we appreciate the city for their consideration for our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, are there any council members that have any comments whatsoever? I do agree with Mr. Gippen. I think that this should be expedited. We've taken time on this. I do want to say, though, in regard to the meeting that you mentioned the other night, it seemed like there was an assertion that council was making it difficult for the board to do its job. But I will mention and remind folks, excuse me, that last March of '23, that there were proposed rules that had come in and proposed by the law department at that time. And I firmly feel that they could have been worked out in a timely manner, and the board could have been up and running a lot quicker than it has been because of that, because they chose not to. So I kind of take exception with the assertion that it's council, because there's a two-way street, and those rules were available. They chose not to go forward, and it took several months later for their version to come in. But with that being said, I'd like to go forward, and if we could have a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report. Can I get that motion?
I make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. The next piece we have coming in is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee without formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with Standard and Associates for professional services relating to promotional testing for police sergeants and declaring an emergency. Captain McCosey, or is it going to be Eve Belfance. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, committee members
HR.
and council members. Eve Belfance here, Acting Human Resources Director, and with me is Chris Renninger, not Stacy Doty. But as reflected in the ordinances, this is a contract related to promotional testing. I don't know if the members have any questions about that.
Are there any questions by any committee members? Any council members? I don't believe so. What's your pleasure?
Consent agenda?
Could I get a motion for consent, please?
Motion for consent.
Sir.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. The next piece coming in is ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with Gov Connection, Inc. for the purchase of up to 25 tablet computers and 25 printers for the use in police cruisers and declaring an emergency. Captain McCosey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We are going to build 25 new cruisers this year. Those vehicles have hit the ground, so we're ready to build them. This will enable us to buy the computer equipment and the printers that are required for each one of those 25 cars. So we did get an updated quote for these since the time that we entered the request for legislation, and it's now CDW Government that is the lowest bidder. All of these are providers, the vendors are all providing the exact same brand, model number, and peripheral equipment that we need, but that vendor did change with the new quotes as time has moved on us. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions by any committee members? Any questions by any council members? I have one question I do have is the printers. I'm not familiar with printers in the police vehicles. What will they utilize?
Yeah, so we have now gone to, and all of our frontline cars have them. The printers are an integral part of what our officers are doing. They use the printers for tow reports. When they do a tow report on a vehicle that they're towing out there on the road, they can print that and hand it to the tow driver, so they have a copy of the report, and instead of the old-fashioned 3-part copies of all these reports. So we do it that way. We also are able to use those printers for e-ticketing, which allows us to write the citation, print that citation, and provide it to the violators, and then the system will send electronically the information to the court. So those printers are becoming more and more important for us as we continue to build through Tyler and the RMS systems.
Thank you. Well, we have no other questions. What's your preference?
We would like suspension of the rules so we don't have any more price changes. That would be preferable.
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll get that out. Thank you. Let's see, our next ordinance is authorizing the mayor or his designee to file an application and, if awarded, accept and expend grant funding from FEMA for the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, AFG, and declaring an emergency. Captain Kelly, or Chief Kelly, excuse me, sir. Pardon me.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, committee members. Yeah, we're applying for, and if awarded, to accept and expend the FEMA Assistant to Firefighter Grant for the purchase of 16 cardiac monitors. This will be all the ancillary equipment and 4-year warranties on those 16. And total cost is $1,066,000. Our portion would be 10% of that. and I'll answer any questions you have on that.
Any questions by any committee members? Any council members? What's your preference on this, sir?
Suspension, please.
Okay, could I get a motion for suspension of the rules with favorable report?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll get that out. And the last piece we addressed is the substitute. So if there's nothing else to come before us, the Safety Committee will be adjourned. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Our next committee will be the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Fusco, Boyes, and Hardy. Again, that's the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Our next committee of the day is the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members again are Lombardo, Amobian, Fusco, Boys, and Hardy. We do have all members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order with first order of business approving the minutes from the last meeting.
So move.
So move.
Motion and a second. All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We have one item coming before us, and that is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee, without the formality of publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts with Guidehouse Incorporated for professional consulting services through the year 2027 and declaring an emergency. We have Mr. Michael Wheeler here with us from our finance group.
Thank you. I'm happy to take this one, Chairperson. This is really us coming back to solidify our contract with Guidehouse for the next 3 years. We originally did the RFP on a basis that it'd be a 5-year project with the option to renew each year, and that's why we came back earlier for the 1-year extension. This will allow us to go through not only 2026, but 2027 and get through the year end of 2026's reporting requirements and any audit questions that may arise in 2027. We are utilizing these funds not only for monitoring and the reporting purposes, but for streamlining some of the projects across the board, including the violence intervention and prevention work, some of the Akron housing repair administrative work, and even assisting us in just assessing eligibility on items like the shower bus that we're going forward with. At this point, we are going to be utilizing them for some projects to also streamline internal city services. And with that, we're open to any questions.
Mm-hmm. Can you refresh my memory? The original contract was from what year to what year?
Originally, it's a 1-year. It was originally designed as a 1-year contract that could be renewed for up to 5 years. So under the original legislation that was passed back in 2021, this was always kind of the approach was, previously we had wanted to do it just to have the overarching ARPA legislation that we had done. But the direction that we're going is anything over 50,000, we are still bringing back to council as a whole. So since this is well over 50,000, we just want to solidify the work now so there is not an interruption in services and we can obligate this in the Treasury portal.
Mm-hmm. And the original, it was, how much was it for every year?
I mean, in totality, it was designed to be $5 million.
Okay, so, okay.
And to date, we've spent 1.8. We don't expect to get to the 5 million, but this allows us to go there if we get to that point.
Okay. So that was like $1 million a year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And now we're extending it to 2027?
Correct.
Okay. And the price is $4 million?
That is the not to exceed amount. So that would get us to the 5 million. And if we needed to come back and make adjustments, we would.
Okay. So we're still within that 5 million?
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Very good. Any other questions from our committee members?
Yes.
Councilwoman Boyce.
Thank you. I noticed the date, the final date is in 2027, but
Correct.
and the source is ARPA funding?
Yes.
But ARPA funds have to be spent
That's
by
correct.
2026, so how?
That's an easy answer, actually, is
Yeah.
while we do have these interest earnings, and I mentioned that previously at the council retreat, this would be utilizing some of the interest earnings that are not required to be spent by the spend down date.
Gotcha.
So this is kind of that holdback that we had discussed in terms of if there's overages with the community centers, it would be for projects like this too. And it really allows us to streamline the process and forecast out what everything looks like till that time.
Got it. Yeah, I did have one other question.
Yes.
And just a suggestion. I know that some of this funding is going towards some community development projects.
Yes.
I know some of our community development corporations are a little more, they have more prowess when it comes to federal funding and how to navigate that. But I know, there's been efforts to help bolster these smaller and growing CDCs. Can some of this guidehouse, how do I say this? Some of their resources be put towards helping our CDCs become better at spending the money, accounting for the money, some education?
So that's a great question. And I think, a very good example of what we're doing is we're working with the well right now. And we're trying to assist them not only in their spend down for the projects that we've committed to for them. They're doing their own housing repair program as well. But I do believe that we have several other things allocated. If there's a specific request that, you would like to make, I would suggest you provide that to council leadership so it can be passed on to us so we can provide the proper analysis. I would also say that we're looking to come back and do a full kind of update to City Council as part of the budget hearing process in March. So there's multiple opportunities to have this conversation. Really, the one thing that we have to keep in mind is, for our purposes, we're really trying to nail down the last of the commitments and obligations by September 30th. And that really is the drop dead.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The interest earnings that you reference.
Yes.
How much are you projecting to earn, and are we including that whenever we have discussions about the budget? Do we include those dollars as well?
Yes, so we have been including them. Right now, we're projecting to be right around 8 million in totality. And as we progress, and right now, this is the critical year for us to project out what the remainder of the spend looks like between now and really 2026. That's how we're trying to look at different initiatives that we may or may not be able to do.
So the 8 million that you're projecting to have, we don't have to spend that at any particular time. Is that what you're saying?
That is the current understanding. The Treasury has gone back and forth on that, and as the last draft of the interim final rule, right now, it is not required to be obligated. I would not be surprised if that changes. There has been so many changes to this process over the years that it creates a little bit of a headache just trying to do some cash forecasting.
Okay. My other question, Mr. Chair, if I can follow up. Since the home repair program seems to be start and stop, and it sounds like we're revising it as we speak, could we make sure we set aside some of these dollars, or do we have to go through another process of reallocating? I know we set aside 20 or 25 million for the home repair program.
So originally, we had set aside 20 million for housing repair program. That's kind of wrapping up right now. As we kind of move into what we're internally calling the 2.0 program, there are options that are being discussed and proposals that are being floated around, but at this time I can't really say much more than we are entertaining ideas for what it looks like, and this is at the top of the list, for our priorities, is really getting this rebooted.
And I hope so. And I hope we can get a clear understanding of what we have spent thus far, how many homes we've actually completed, how many of those applicants are still waiting to hear from us. All of that needs to really be clearly defined as we prepare to go into 2.0.
Absolutely. And what we're doing right now, just as a heads up, is we are kind of reviewing and the program as a whole. This is one of the areas where we've utilized Guidehouse to make sure that we are in compliance. And we're modeling our review based off of what a HUD compliance audit would look like. So that way we can get our own understanding and provide updated things. This is another topic I would like to, we will come back in the future as this progress and we have a report, is completed.
Thank you. I think you've answered my other questions as to the totality of the grant to Guidehouse. Thank you. The contract.
Thank you. And then we have Councilman Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Wheeler, I'm just curious, what is Guidehouse actually doing? Like, what specific skill sets are they augmenting that we cannot provide internally?
So the skill sets they are provided is pretty comprehensive. We do not have the capacity to do the report that the Treasury requires on a quarterly basis. So what we do, they facilitate quarterly and monthly check-ins with all the project leads. They take all the information that's in our Workday system and they format it into these Excel workbooks that eventually get uploaded via the Treasury portal. It's a very cumbersome process and it's a very time-consuming process. Even from the time that they take, it takes them about a week to prepare it, and then from there, it takes me another day just to review one of these quarterly reports before we hit the submit button in the Treasury portal. They've also assisted us within determining our revenue loss capacity numbers. They've built out our compliance modeling work, especially in working with the Violence Intervention Prevention Programs, what DENICO does, and building the capacity not only internally but externally with various partners that they've done. And they are really helping us reboot and model out what the Akron Home Repair Program 2.0 will look like, including our specific requirements that we are still in the process of determining.
Okay. Is there any other questions that we have with committee members or any other council members? And what would be your pleasure?
Consent.
Consent agenda? Can I get a motion for consent?
So moved.
Motion for consent. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We'll see that it's placed on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. No other business coming before us. The Budget and Finance meeting is adjourned.
That is the final committee meeting today. Council will meet in special session at 5 o'clock for public hearings. Thank you.